The following story that I'm about to tell you really did happen to me. It's completely true, but whether you want to believe it or not is completely up to you. So, like any good story, it started at night. About August, a warm summer night. A friend of mine was staying over my house. I live in the woods, so we thought it would be fun to set up camp outside for the night. The previous year I had built a small shelter, so we didn't use a tent. We just laid our sleeping bags under the shelter and set up camp. Among our usual items, I brought out a small rifle and different hunting tools. Before sunset, we had gathered sticks and branches and started a fire. We cooked our dinner over the fire and just talked for a few hours into the night. In hindsight, this was potentially a mistake. Once we decided it was time to go to sleep, we got our sleeping bags ready. Instead of just laying our sleeping bags in the dirt below the shelter, we thought it would be a better idea to lay an extra tarp down over the ground. I had remembered there was an extra tarp near the shed in the back, so I went to retrieve it. It was pitch black now, and I needed a flashlight to see. I found the tarp on the side of the shed and went to pick it up. Along the shed lies a trail leading deeper into the woods. While retrieving the tarp, I shined my flashlight down it just to be aware of my surroundings. Because it wasn't far from our shelter, I left my gun back at camp. But what I saw next made me regret that decision. Down the trail leading deeper into the woods, two sets of glowing eyes were staring me down as I retrieved the tarp. They were at least 40 yards away, but I knew from where they were standing, they had to have been at least eye level with me. They stood unmoving, as did I. About 30 seconds passed, and whatever they were decided they had enough. In one swift motion, one sidestepped into the nearby tree line, followed by the second as they both disappeared. For me, one of the strangest things about the movement of the creature was that it never turned away from me. As if it was standing on two legs, it simply made one very large stride into the tree line and disappeared. And although dry leaves were scattered all along the ground of the forest, these creatures didn't make a single sound when they moved away. My friend was still back at camp, so when I got back I told him what had happened. Although I was pretty rattled at this point, we still decided to stay out for the night. I tried to put the incident out of my mind, but sleep didn't come easy for either of us. Maybe an hour after I saw the eyes, we started to hear movement in the leaves just outside our camp. The light from our campfire gave off a decent amount of light, but only for a few feet before it faded into the darkness of the woods. We couldn't see anything, but we could hear it all too well. After hearing its movement through the leaves, it started to make a strange sound that was definitely meant for us. The sounds it made towards us were not something I would have expected. It was like a growl followed by an instantaneous bark-like noise, but in a way that I can't explain. It was much different. It was a different pitch. I wouldn't have expected anything like it from some kind of canine-like creature. Although I couldn't make out what kind of noise it was, the message was clear. It was a warning. We heard this noise about 3 times before we finally decided we should leave. But before we did, I decided to try something. I took my rifle and fired one warning shot into a pile of leaves near where the sound was coming from. I fired once and waited for any kind of reaction, but there was nothing. As much as I was expecting whatever it was to turn tail and run, I heard nothing. Either it had left earlier without making a single noise, or it wasn't in the least bit intimidated by the shot. Both options are equally unsettling. We packed up and went back into the house. The night was over, for now. But about 6 months later, I had another encounter.